Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we explore convenient yet effective shortcuts that will help you get ahead and move forward faster by becoming a better leader. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert, and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbach.
Need a powerful and entertaining way to ignite your next conference, retreat, or team building session? My keynotes don't include magic, but they do have the power to help your attendees take a leap forward by putting emotional intelligence into their employee engagement, and customer-centric leadership practices. So bring the infotainment creativity of the Fast Leader Show to your next event, and I'll help your attendees get over the hump now. Go to beyondmorale.com/speaking to learn more. Okay, Fast Leader Legion, today I have excitement and anxiety for the guests that I have on the show today because their skill and knowledge about leadership is so wide and deep that I almost feel like I'm not worthy, but I'm ready to get over that hump. Robert Anderson was born and raised in Toledo, Ohio, where he was born into a leadership context. His grandfather, uncles, one aunt, and father started a business, the Andersons, now a Fortune 500 company with interests in grain, plant nutrients, ethanol, rail, and retail. On Bob's other side of the family, his maternal grandfather was the president of the American Medical Association, and his uncle was a renowned Jesuit moral theologian. Bob often reflects and marvels at the perfection of the family into which he was born. Throughout his life, Bob has been passionate about one thing: the deep ground of being from which human greatness springs and from which great leadership emerges. This passion led him to study leadership, and his book, Mastering Leadership, is an integration and summary of his life's work. For Bob, authenticity is the most influential human quality. He believes that the hardest thing to do is to tell the truth blamelessly and compassionately. This same challenge is one that he also knows can be very rewarding. Bob is the founder, chairman, and chief development officer of the Leadership Circle. He is also the co-founder and chairman of Full Circle Group. Additionally, he is the creator of the Leadership Circle Profile, an integrated and innovative leadership assessment tool. Bob also serves as adjunct faculty for the Executive Education Center at the University of Notre Dame Mendoza College of Business. In 2005, Bob received the Partner in Innovation Faculty Award. Bob still resides in Toledo, Ohio, with his wife of 33 years, with whom he loves to travel the globe and has 3 grown children. Bob Anderson, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
Gladly.
I'm glad you're here. I've given our listeners a little bit about you, but can you tell us what your current passion is so that we can get to know you even better?
Well, my current passion is helping leaders develop from the inside out. The book we just wrote is really about the tendency, when we think about developing leaders, to focus on the outer game. Skills, competencies, knowledge, experience, and all that. It's all very important, and it's only half the game, or maybe even less than half the game. So the inner game runs the outer game, and we tend to ignore the inner work that's required to really mature into great leadership. So my passion is helping people with that.
You bring up some very interesting points for me, and as I was going through, and I can tell you that the book Mastering Leadership that we're really talking about mostly today is that, man, it's the depth and knowledge. I started going through and I was like, whoa, this is heavy material. I mean, and when mastery's on the cover, mastery is absolutely inside. But there's something that stood out very much for me, and it was called the predictable stages of consciousness.
Right.
What does that mean?
Well, first of all, the book is dense, and I've called it's just the way Bill and I write. Somebody once, just like this week, said, it's all meat, no fat. I hadn't heard it put that way. Well, the field of adult development, which actually started with childhood development, and Piaget, who said, here are the various stages. And when we see children, we watch them just more from one level of mind to the next level of mind to the next level of mind. Turns out adults can do the same thing, and they do so if they evolve, and that's a big if, predictably. And they move out of adolescence into what Bob Keegan at Harvard called socialized mind, where you take on the surrounding expectations and so on, and you make yourself successful within them. And that most adults will live there. Then you can move into what we call creative mind or self-authoring mind, which is where leadership, all the big descriptions of great leadership or what it takes to be effective today are describing creative mind. And not very many adults actually are operating from that operating system. Creative mind is focused on now your own vision, your own values, your own deep sense of purpose, and you're about trying to create your life and your leadership as an expression of that. And then it can go further on, and very few are operating from what we call integral or self-transforming mind, as Bob Kagan called it, and so on. So, and these stages develop progressively. You can't skip steps, and you develop in one, and then if you evolve further, you differentiate from that and develop into the next stage of development. And our data suggests that development is highly correlated to effectiveness in leadership.
Well, one of the things that we talk about on the Fast Leader Show is really learning from others so that we can do some of that next stage development faster, because somebody once said that, the experiences that we have are much greater teachers than anything we may read or, sessions or, training that we may take. It's those experiences. Now, the beauty about story is that we can use the experiences of others to help with our development. So if you think about today, and that many organizations have they're running so lean. And when you look at even the periphery and outer bands of an organization, we need everybody to improve their leadership skills, regardless of their age. And we don't have an entire lifetime, to get these people to move up to that next level. So when I start thinking about predictable stages of consciousness, I needed to move faster. How can I do that?
Well, it's very interesting. I mean, we outline in the book 6 practices that we think will reliably boot up creative mind from reactive mind. One of them is discern purpose. So you talked about getting over the hump, as a focus. That was a getting over the hump experience for me. When I started my career, I was working in the family business. I was running the feed manufacturing plant. So I started my career making hog food and dog food. And one night the plant was down. It was a new plant, so we're in startup, which means nothing works. And so the plant was down, and we needed to get it back on. So we had customer orders to fill in the morning. And so middle of the night, I'm out there unloading railroad cars full of feed ingredients, and I get inside the car to sweep it out at one point about 2:30 in the morning, and I'm exhausted, and I just prop my feet up inside the hopper bottom of that car when I'm done, catch my breath, and I got my dust mask on, and I'm sitting there for just a few seconds, and out of my mouth, out loud, came, "I'm not becoming who I am." Out loud. And I was shocked. I'm like, who said that? Where did that come from? And I knew it was true. And I knew I had to pay attention to it. And so I started, I just noticed that. And then within a couple of weeks, somebody gave me a book called Letters to a Young Poet by Rilke, a great poet, German poet. And in that, the aspiring poet is saying to Rilke, "Hey, take a look at my work. What do you think? Should I be a poet? Am I good enough?" And Rilke writes back and says, "Wrong question. You're looking outward. And above all, you should not do that now. Go into yourself and search for the reason that bids you write. Find out if it's spreading out its roots in the deepest places of your heart." And then at one point he says, "Ask yourself in the stillest hour of the night, must I write?" I went, oh, that's the question. What must I be about with my life in order for it to be the life I came here to live and not someone else's? And I took that really seriously. I went home that night, working late, and started a list. Not a bucket list, a must list. This is who I think I am and what I'm here to do with this life. And I wrote about 30 pages progressively over a period of time on that. And then I kind of put it away, and I realized 6 months later I hadn't done anything with it. And when I dropped into that, I realized I was scared, because it meant bigger change than I felt I was up for at the time. And I didn't know how to do it. I mean, I had no idea where this was going to take me. So I went on and made a retreat, made an 8-day retreat, silent retreat. I came back and started making moves. 15 years later, I pulled that journal that I'd written, that must journal, out of the closet. I read it and I wept, because everything I'd written there, which I had no idea how to do, was actually happening in ways that I never could have imagined. I didn't even know about this profession that I'm in at the time I wrote that stuff. I was running a feed plant, just come out of business school, and so that was a hump, getting over and really taking seriously, who am I? What am I here for? And moving through the fear of stepping out, not knowing how, not having a clue, actually. And things have unfolded in ways that Joseph Campbell says, follow your bliss. And then he says, if you do that, all the doors open. If you're on purpose, all the doors open. If you're not, they all remain closed. So my experience of life has been a lot of opening doors that, looking back, it's kind of astonishing.
Well, it definitely is. And thanks for sharing that story. When you start thinking about, the Fast Leader Show, I think you just summed up a lot of the things that we try to have come out with the guests that we interview. And hopefully that when people are done listening, they have now had the opportunity to reflect and hopefully make some adjustments and changes so that they can move onward and upward faster. And when I look at, and looking through the Mastering Leadership book, I see there's just so much research that's been done on the different, let's just say, principles, philosophies. I mean, it just runs this huge gambit. And I know that you've had some very significant influences in a lot of different ways throughout the course of your life, including your own family. And we look at leadership quotes as one of the things that causes us to do some mindfulness, some energy building, reflect. Just that whole reflection and piece is that. And so is there a quote or two that you can share with us that kind of helps ground you, energize you, that you can share?
Well, one of my early mentors was Peter Block. Peter's written a number of books. He's an astounding human being. I got this from him. I'm not sure he originated it, but there's no safe way to be great. And that actually is a huge quote, because it gets at the tension between the desire for greatness, or the desire to really live into who you are or what's really matters to you, create what matters, and the natural tendency in all of us is we want to find a safe path, and there isn't one. So the search for safety is always in tension with the search for purpose, vision, creating what matters. Fear comes up, and so no safe way to be great. And do you love more than you fear?
As you've been talking, there's something that kind of has come to my mind, especially in today's society, when you start talking about how we view others. It could be perceived that, and people decide that word greatness is something that we're trying to get other people to bestow upon us. But listening to you talk, it doesn't sound like that's really the meaning of it.
No, that's part of the wish for safety, and in some ways, in what we call reactive or structure of mind, where most adults are, the basic deal we make when we go to work, hidden deal, is patriarchal. So I'll submit if you take care of me and provide me a future. And as soon as we make that exchange, we're into a play not to lose game. We're trying to not fall from grace with higher ups because they hold the key to our future, and so on and so on. And so you see fear and caution in organizations very, very high. And if you start to talk, you mentioned my favorite value is authenticity. If you start to really work with people in the middle of the pyramid around telling the truth, especially telling the truth to power, if I do that, I'll get shot. That's the first. There's no way I can do that and survive. And so you run right into caution. And so much of the work, of really becoming great, and I'm not sure I really like the word great in the sense of it can be a very egotistical thing. I'm trying to talk about it in a different way. But the thing about greatness is, it isn't great unless you're rowing against the stream. And so if we're waiting for circumstances to line up, right boss, right organizational culture, mixed messages to go away, political risk, and so on, if we're waiting for that to line up, to give us permission to be great, it's a long wait. And the courage required is to do it anyway and run the inherent risk that is leadership. There's no safe way to be great. And so what matters enough to risk for, you have to be clear about that. And then that's your work. And then you have to get underneath your fear. Generally, more often than not, the illusion that's underneath my fear. I'm making up most of the fear that I feel. And it's a house of cards. And until you see that, you act as if it's true when you're in a play not to lose game. And so that work, what do I want? And what's underneath how I get in my own way is actually how you create the life you came here to live. I think that is the kind of transformative churn that evolves us. And nobody can do that for you. It can't be bestowed.
I often, as you were talking, started thinking about many people may take what we're talking about here and flip it into that, hey, I need to be a rebel. And I don't think that that's the positive path that we would want people to take.
No, it isn't rebellion at all. Actually, the rebel is actually a childlike response. It's counter-dependent. I'm angry at you because of generally my own lack of power. And so I rebel. And so there's two options. You can play the victim or you can play the rebel. Neither one work. Neither one's constructive, but they come out of the same powerlessness. They're just different reactions. So the more mature response is, how do I engage with both challenge and support? How do I support what's trying to happen here and the value of what's in the current culture? And how do I stay in dialogue to evolve it?
You know, there's one thing that I read when in the book is it was talking about how, and it really referred to senior leaders, how senior leaders need to invest in themselves to improve their skills and knowledge associated with leading. And it really talked about that being a commitment from the top. But I mean, for me, I see that really needing to be a commitment regardless of where you are in the organization.
Yes. Leadership is at every level, and development is at every level. And frankly, to be an empowered follower, you need everything we've just been talking about. You need that work. So I don't actually distinguish it by level. The argument we're making in the book is, if you're trying to create a cultural transformation in the organization, and it's not, and leadership is at the core of that, how you individually and collectively, especially collectively, are showing up as a leadership team in the organization, that defines the culture. It defines everything, really. And so our book is written to create an argument for, here's the kind of depth, strategic and systemic focus it takes to really develop leadership in the organization. And if you don't do that, your change efforts are in jeopardy. So we are making a very specific argument, but not to suggest that this kind of leadership isn't needed all the way through, and the development agenda is the same, but at every level.
And I think from an individual perspective, and even if you start looking at how much companies or organizations will invest in their folks in regards to, developing them as leaders, I don't think you can rely or wait on that to happen, nor going back to that rebellion and complain and whine about it, is that you need to actually build your own pathway to doing it.
Yes. Nobody's going to do it for you. And waiting's a long wait. So get on with it.
So when you start looking at a lot of the things that you're doing, I mean, of course, writing, speaking, assessments, wife, traveling, grown kids. We didn't talk about any grandkids in there.
Not yet.
Not yet. I know that's a joy for many. But when you start thinking about all these things, what are some of your goals?
That's a very interesting question. I'm 60 now, just published a book, 30 years worth of life work poured into that book. So I'm actually in a transition, and it's what do I want to do with Act 3 of my career life? When you're at 60, you start to go, okay, if not now, when? And so I'm actually working that right now. This question of purpose and vision never lets go of you. So what would I say are some of my goals? Well, this work is a passion for me, and it's my creative response to what a world I think in need. Our world is in pretty serious trouble. You look at some of the population trends, climate trends, water, and so on, oceans. And we don't have a lot of time to really make a difference on the trajectory of some of those trends. And so the leadership challenges, not only in corporate, where it's becoming more and more complex, but especially when you look at the leadership challenges in the world, are going to take very highly conscious leaders. If not enlightened leadership, servant leadership, and so on, the various names we've put on. And so our work is, how do we evolve conscious leadership to steward the planet? That's our mission statement. We exist, this is the mission statement of our business. We exist to evolve the conscious practice of leadership to steward the planet and to awaken us all to our inherent unity. So what happens if leaders start to function from the truth of we are all one family? Well, there is an inherent unity here, and our job is to steward the planet. That kind of conscious leadership it's going to take to do that is what we as an organization are trying to impact. My goal for the next 10 years would be, how can we make consciousness best practice in business?
And the Fast Leader Legion wishes you the very best. Now, before we move on, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. The number one thing that contributes to customer loyalty is emotions. So move onward and upward faster by gaining significantly deeper insight and understanding of your customer journey and personas with emotional intelligence. With your empathy mapping workshop, you'll learn how to evoke and influence the right customer emotions that generate improved customer loyalty and reduce your cost to operate. Get over your emotional hump now by going to empathymapping.com to learn more. All right, here we go, Fast Leader Legion. It's time for the Hump Day Hoedown. Okay, Bob, the Hump Day Hoedown is the part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Bob Anderson, are you ready to hoe down?
I didn't know this was coming. Here we go.
Okay, Bob, what do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
My own fear.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
Jump.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
Courage. Courage to move forward in the face of not knowing how, and fear.
What do you feel is one of your best tools that helps you lead in business or life?
Heart.
What would be one book that you'd recommend to our listeners? And it could be from any genre.
Peter Block wrote a book called The Empowered Manager. It's one of my all-time favorites.
Okay, Fast Leader listeners, you can find links to that and other bonus information from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Bob Anderson. Okay, Bob, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25, and you've been given the opportunity to take the knowledge and skills that you have now back with you, but you can't take everything. You can only choose one. So what skill or piece of knowledge would you take back with you, and why?
At 25, I didn't know that much of me was run on autopilot. My need to be liked, to be always thought highly of, was running me in ways I didn't know. And it cost me a lot. I'd learned that. I'd like to take that back and see what would unfold if I saw through the illusion of that fear.
Bob, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with Fast Leader listeners how they can connect with you?
TheLeadershipCircle.com, all one word, TheLeadershipCircle.com.
Bob Anderson, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.